As promised in the last episode, today we'll be going over how to make a command handler so we can get rid of this mess and make it into nice, neat and tidy individual files like this in a commands folder. Super nice and easy. This is actually very similar to the handler that I use on my very own Discord bot. One of the things that I will be working on with you guys is deploying the commands in a completely different way soon in the future. Well, actually, do you know what? Let's do this right now. So let's do deploy commands. This will be a new file. And this isn't going to make a lot of sense, but we have a lot of stuff that we're going to need to do. One of the things that we're going to do to start with, though, is we're going to actually go back into the config.json, and there's two more things that we're going to need. Since we're going to make this as a single guild bot for now, I'm going to include a guild ID. This is going to be the guild that it's going to be running on, and only this one. And we're also going to have the client ID. You'll see why this is useful later, but we need to declare what the ID of our Discord bot is. Now, we can go here, I believe, and there should be somewhere to get the ID. Yes, client ID. There we go. That's all we need. We're going to put the client ID here. Another way you can do that, make sure you have developer mode on, by the way, is you can copy the ID here, or you can copy the ID here, and it should be the exact same. Yep. Alright, so the way you turn developer mode on is you go in here, and then where is it? It's advanced. Anyway, developer mode right here. So you turn that on, and that allows you to get the ID of different things much easier. Alright, and now what we also need from that is we need to get the guild ID. So you can right click here and you can click copy ID from the guild. Put the guild ID in there. Easy peasy. Now we have the guild ID and we also have the client ID. If we go back into deploy commands, let me just get rid of these real quick. We don't need these for now. Right, so now we've required everything. I'm going to make a new function. This function is going to be called recursively. It's going to be function, and I'm just going to call it get files. We're going to put it into the directory, and this will help allow it to be called recursively. Anyway, one moment. Indent using tabs 2. Const files equals fs dot read directory sync. This is the directory that we're passing in again, and then we're opening up a function with file types, and we're going to set this to true because we want to be able to check and make sure that it's actually a JS file and we're not getting like an image or something else, just in case you want to have like a text file in there that you don't want to take. And now the command files is a array. It's an empty array. Now essentially what we're doing is we're going through each of the files, because here we got all the files, right? Through fs. And then if file dot is directory, file is directory, then command files equals an array command files. So it's saying include the past command files and get files directory slash file dot name. And essentially what this is doing is, the directory that we started with. This directory that we started with at the very start. So let's say the first directory is commands, and then there's a new folder called moderation. All right, so it's going to go through here. It's going to say, okay, the file is the directory. It's a folder in another way of saying it. And it's going to say, okay, so now the command files array of the original function is going to equal the current command files, and then we're going to get more files from within the moderation folder directory, and then it's going to equal all the files from commands and moderation. And you could do it infinite amount of times. There could be infinite, in theory, folders within moderation. That would take forever to go through, but it would be possible. Now we're going to do an else if, and if we're going to do file.name.ends with. So what this is saying is if it's not a directory and the file ends with .js, then command files, and essentially what .push does is it adds this to the end of the array, and we're going to do the exact same thing as up here. So we'll just copy this, paste it here, directory, and then file.name. All right. Now we can return command files. Whoops, wrong spot. So after the array, after the for loop is done, at the end of this function, we're going to return command files, which is going to return this array. So that means whenever we say const commands equals get files, and then we say, what is it? /commands. Yeah, because right here we're in deploy commands and we want to get the commands. So what this is going to do is it's going to go through the function here, and it's going to get us all those commands, and the command files is going to return to here, and we're going to have a nice array. All right. So the next step is going to be getting all the commands. All right, so here we go. Let commands equals an array. Const command files equals get files /commands. And now we're going to go ahead, and that's going to allow us to get all the files from in there. Now we're going to get each of the files individually once they've all been sent back. Now we're going to require the file. So similar to up here how you can require from config.json, we're going to require all the information that's here. And we'll set this up more effectively and properly later. I'll explain how that works. And then commands.push command.data.toJSON. JSON being JavaScript object notation, which is similar to how this looks. And it's basically converting our lovely text here, or this lovely data here, into something more similar to this. So now that we have the JSON of every individual file, and we've pushed it into our new empty array, we have an array of essentially command data. So now what we can do with that data is const rest equals new rest. And this is another API similar to discord.js. And we're going to be using version 10 in this case. .set token. We're going to set it to our same as our Discord bot token. Rest.put. And we're going to say routes.application guild commands. And if you didn't want to specify application guild commands, guild commands, then you could specify application commands, and that would also work, and that would do global commands, so it would put them everywhere. So all servers that have your Discord bot, which is also okay, but it sometimes takes a lot longer to process. Anyway, now we're putting in the client ID and the guild ID from earlier up here. And now we're passing in all those lovely commands that have been converted into JSON files. Now what the .then does is it says, okay, after this has happened, do this. And so now we're gonna make a nice little function here, console.log. And so once it has happened successfully, we're gonna get this lovely success message. All right, and we were also gonna have a .catch. What .catch does is it catches any errors that might happen, and it will log them into the console by using console.error. This should work perfectly fine now, minus the exception of we need to actually get the data specifically. So you see how right here we did command.data? Well, the command files currently don't have a .data component to them. So the way that we're going to make a component like that is, well, let's do it on the ping command for an example. Let's start here on the ping command. Nice and easy on the ping command. All right. So here on the ping command, what we can do is up here you would require whatever you need. So obviously we're going to need to require the application or the / command builders again. From discord.js. Wow, I can't spell today. From discord.js. Now what we're going to do is we're going to export all the information that's here. Module.exports allows us to export all the information within these curly braces. Right here. Anything that you put in here will be exported. So we can put this in here, but that's not going to work. Now what we need to do is set this to be a data object. And essentially what we're saying is this is JSON here. So everything in these brackets, very similar to this. Think of it like this. You have to have a comma before every other thing here. So now we have the data here. We can also set other different components. So one thing we'll work on next after we get this part to work is we'll have a asynchronous function called execute. And I'll go into more depth of that with that later. And you'll see right here, we need to put a comma to say that's the end of that line. And then this is the next line here. This is the interaction, which is going to have all the information that we need. And we'll come back to this afterwards. First, just go ahead and do this for all the other commands. So what you can do is you can copy that over, paste it in there for echo, and then for hello. And now you just take the relevant information, make sure you leave that comma in there, take away the semicolon. All right, now that's looking much better if you ask me. They all have their own individual files for the most part. We've got a way of deploying all the commands. Now if we close that up, we go back into index. I'm actually going to delete that moderation folder. We don't need that right now. It's just for an example. If we go into index, we don't need to create it with any of this. And we don't need to declare the commands here. All right, so we can get rid of this. We are going to leave this for now, and I will show you guys how to make this a lot more neat and tidy afterwards. But now, we can go ahead and clear everything, and we should be able to do node deploy commands .js. Okay, I guess I was spelling it wrong. Anyway, it says successfully registered application commands. Let's see if it worked. if it worked, they should all still be here. We click on the bot. Would you look at that? Hello? We didn't set up that yet. Well, actually, we might have. Did we? I think we did, yeah. Oh, no. Oh, right. Well, of course, we need to also start up the bot. Sorry, my bad. So we start the bot. Now, a cool thing with Discord is, similar to when you use the up arrow in the command line to call the last thing you called, you can do the same thing here, as long as there's a command last, instead of editing the message. And boom, it worked. Super simple. All right. Now we just gotta work on getting all this information into every single command. And as you saw, we already made an asynchronous execute function. Wow, you might be asking, what does asynchronous mean? In a nutshell, it just means that if I was to console.log hello or 1 and then console.log 2, they're not necessarily going to go 1 and then 2. It could go 2 and then 1. So the reason why this is useful is there's a lot of different scenarios where you want to load information asynchronously, which means when you're asking for information from Discord, you might want to be loading information from one source at the same time as from another source in order to run faster. So asynchronous means it's basically calling both of these at the same time instead of saying, okay, console.log 1 and then console.log 2. It's just saying console.log 1 and also console.log 2. Doesn't matter, whichever's fastest, do it first. Doesn't matter, just do them both at the same time, work on them both at the same time. And so it's a much more efficient in some ways, but it's also really annoying in some other ways, because sometimes one thing needs to happen before another thing. So example, you're requiring information from the API, from the Discord API. You need to make sure you await it. And what that means is it'll wait for this to happen before it continues on. And we're going to go over that a lot more in depth down the line, and you'll see it used a lot. But that's in a nutshell. You need to await things in an asynchronous function in order to wait for it to happen before moving on to the next thing. Because you're awaiting what's called a promise, which means when you request information from the Discord API, it says, okay, I'm going to go get that information for you. Hold on a minute. And it's promising that it's going to get you that information, but it hasn't gotten it yet. And so when it's awaited, it means it'll only continue once the information has been retrieved successfully and yada, yada, yada. And it carries on and everything works as it should. So that's very important. We'll go into that in more depth later. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to make a basic command handler. So we've already got deployed commands working nicely. That's real good. All right. Now, when an interaction happens, what are we going to do? So I'll also show you guys how to make a event handler soon. But the basics here, it's pretty simple. And there can be a lot more in-depth things you can do to make this really complicated. But it's pretty simple for now. So one thing we're also going to have to go over is we're going to have to go through and we're going to take all this code. This is for hello. And this is for echo. Revamped this. So when an interaction is created, if it's not chat input command return, that's the same as before. And now we're letting the command we're letting command represent client.commands.get. So we're saying client.commands, which is this variable here, .get. And then we have a get function for a collection, and we're going to make a new collection. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to go back into deploy commands. We're going to steal this function here. It would be more ideal to make a utility function or utility folder and store this get files function within it, but for now it's okay. We're only using it a couple times. I'm just going to repaste it into here, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a new function called get commands, as you see here, and it's going to use get files. So function get commands, and it auto-completes because I already have it there. We're going to pass in the directory, which we're going to use short form dir. It's very commonly used. And we're going to say let commands equals new collection. As we declared earlier, a collection is from discord.js. Now we're doing const command files equals get files and directory again. The same directory that we just brought in. Now, for each of these files, const command of command files, we are going to let's change this a bit. So command file of command files, and now we're letting the command equals require command file. And now we're getting all the data from there. Let's make this into const. All right. Now commands dot set command file dot data dot to JSON, which, as you remember earlier from deploy commands, dot to JSON is converting all the data from in here into JSON, which is JavaScript object notation, as I've said a million times, and we're going to get the name parameter. As you can see here, I checked by console.logging the data, and it turns out that it's called the name. So in here, we've got the name of the command, so we can do dot to JSON dot name and command file, or sorry, command. The reason why we're passing in the command is this is the command. Everything that is here, everything we put in here is going to be in the command now that we've required it. So everything in the module that exports is now here in this command, and we're putting that into our collection. And dot set is how you add it to a collection. And then we're going to return the commands collection. Whoops. And so now client.commands is going to have all the commands and all of its relative data into there. And now it's going to fetch it by name whenever a command is used and execute it accordingly. We're going to pass in the interaction, which is going to be brought in here. Now that that is done, we should be able to start up the bot and hope it works. Okay, I did it again, didn't I? Command.data.toJSON, because we have to require it before we can access it. The command file is simply the name of the file, which is like ./command/hello and all those other ones. So we don't want that. Now if we do /ping, should work, /hello, and we'll specify a user, why not? Let's specify tutorialbot. Or we can do / what's the last one? Echo. Hello. All right. Now we've got a nice command handler set up. All right, future me here right now real quick. I just wanted to say I ended off the video abruptly, but I was gonna say in the video, oh, we'll just make it into 2 parts maybe, or maybe not, because I don't like cutting up the videos, but it's already 23 minutes long-ish. It's gonna be like 24 or 25 with the outro and everything. So I think it's fair to cut it off at this point. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next video, which is technically the same. I recorded all at the same time as this, so it'll be picking up right where I left off here, but it will be the next video, and that's going to be about an event handler, which means similar to commands, you can have events in different files, and it's very similar to that, but I want to do that in a separate episode so I can cover all the important details on its own. Alright, yeah, thanks for watching. Oh, website with code for all the videos is now in the description, so it's great. You can go on there, you can look at the code snippet /video section, and what that has is it has old videos and it has code snippets underneath, so it helps you compare your code. It doesn't have the code word for word as you go further into the series, but it definitely does have a good starting point, and you can compare the core concepts to make sure you have exactly the right wording, because sometimes case sensitive stuff is a real big pain in the butt. For starting out, I have this as an option, so make sure to check that out, like and subscribe for more, and see you on the next episode. Bye for now.